Anthropic's Mythos, Mila's Men Palaces, Marcus Aurelius, and men's fashion. We cover it all on the AI Operators show. So if you are keen to hear four blokes talking about real world use cases of AI, what's happening in the news and the headlines, and how it applies to you and your business, stay tuned and make sure to join us sometime in the live show so you can jump in the chat and ask us questions directly. But enough of me. Enjoy the show. All right, we're live, boys.
Hello.
You're with Mr. Big Head here. Let me fix it. I can't do it. When Richard joins, Richard's running a few minutes late, and then we'll be breaking into our little small windows. But for now, there we go. Now I'm about the same size as you guys' heads.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So much better.
So much better. Now I've still got a bigger head than I think I just have massive head. Like look at the space there. I should be selling advertising on my forehead, I reckon.
Did you see that bloke that sold advertising for his suit for his wedding? So everyone paid to be a sponsorship for his wedding, and then it was just his entire suit covered in AI companies and random companies, and therefore he got his whole wedding paid for and his honeymoon, and he just had to wear a suit covered in logos.
Wow,
that is ridiculous.
Yeah. I vaguely recall that, but maybe I'm just making it up.
There's even a bloke that did it for his toilet. Like he's like cool, but I think he's like selling space in his toilet, and then he'll project it on his toilet, and then he spends time like and he's showing how it is he created the logo to fit perfectly on that spot. And there's one for like the bowl and the one for the back of it, and people are paying money for it because it's just getting so much traction from the internet.
Are these people, do they already have a following? Are they influencers? Do they have some level of notoriety? They're like, I've got 5 people on my Instagram and I'm going to sell space on my tour.
Basically, yeah. It's that like just a random old normal bloke that's like, hey, I want to try this, and then it worked.
That makes me angry. Having like, you know, trying to actually build real content for real people with real value like we do on shows like this. And it's so hard to build the audience and to get started and to get people to find you. And then you get people just doing ridiculous, valueless nonsense, and they just get giant followings. It does make me a little bit mad.
I saw something, I can't remember if it was paid or not. It probably was, and this will probably make you mad as well. It was a little add-on like plugin thing that you could do to download, and you get a whip on your mouse cursor, and you can use it to whip Claude Code.
That's great.
Are people paying for that? Because I saw like a screenshot of it on LinkedIn.
I think so. I don't know. I just scrolled past it quickly without getting too disturbed.
Do either of you do much in Stoicism, like read much Stoicism or Daily Stoic, stuff like that?
Marcus is my boy.
Hey, so yeah, in the Daily Stoic, there's one in February that I've pin marked, like I've literally folded half the page. So whenever I opened up the book, it goes there. It's called The Banquet of Life. And he talks about how everything will come in its own time. So everyone has the banquet of life when everything just goes well, and then you get the new car and you get the new job and you get all the money coming in. And then you can't reach over to steal someone else's while they've got their banquet. You have to wait your turn until it comes to you. So just keep being you, basically, until that banquet comes around the table. And then it's your turn. But then don't hold on to it when you have it, because it's not yours forever.
Interesting. How does that apply to whipping Claude Code?
Not whipping Claude Code, but like getting mad at other people succeeding, because it's like your success will come.
And the capitalist in me goes, you know what, supply and demand. And if they're supplying something, there's a demand. Like I get it. I don't have to like it. My own personal framework of execution and providing value is clearly different from theirs, but they've found something and they've leveraged it very quickly.
Speaking of demand, what's the highest fuel prices you guys have seen?
Oh, I honestly, I've not looked at fuel prices for about 6 years. So I can't even give you a price. I just know it's expensive.
But they don't have fuel in Kalgoorlie?
We do, but I've got a budget. I'm like $50 a week.
They're all on EVs over there.
As long as if I budget it, then it's just that. But yeah, there's a lot of EVs. There's a lot of EVs.
Andrew Forrest has just electrified everything.
That's it.
Yeah.
I've fortunately never really paid attention.
Well, you're out there, man. I've seen it over $3.10 for diesel, maybe $3.20, and then it dropped back down a little bit, but over $3. Well, you're down in the country, and I'm going to bring Richard up. He can weigh in on fuel prices. But hey, Richard, we're just talking fuel prices and how crazy they are. Matt, what have you seen?
So over Easter, my younger brother came down to go for a few motorbike trips, and he
Mhm.
brought back a photo of a country town that had diesel 397.
Oh my goodness.
Wow,
Yeah, it was pretty good.
That is ridiculous.
that's crazy. How far out of town was it?
Oh, it was in like the Victorian mountains.
So is
Yeah.
the price of EV top-ups going up when you see those EV stations in the middle of the bush that are powered by diesel generators? I wonder.
They'd
Sure.
have to be.
Surely.
They'd have to be.
I'd have to, yeah.
It kind
Well, I
of it's the same concept of like the subsidized subscriptions to these AI companies. Like, as all the costs rise, they all of a sudden seem to be cutting back our quota. So yeah, it's going to have some sort of similar impact for sure.
They're
I'd like
cutting
the
back our
Brains Trust to answer me this.
Yeah.
Why isn't the government or individuals using AI to triage where prices are going, why they're going, when they're going, and when they're coming down?
This is not a political podcast, Richard.
I
I'm the current
That was a
Australian government.
technical question.
I'll get in big trouble if I start providing comment on the Albanese government.
That was a technical question, though. If you think about it, any government should already have their computer scientists working on a strategy to understand where things are going, how long they're going to run out of. I don't understand why.
They're too busy trying to enforce impossible to enforce rules around age limits on social
Yeah.
media.
Stopping kids from using Instagram.
What are the
That's a real
incentives?
problem.
It's always the incentives. Like, what incentive do they have to make it easier for us? They
Yeah.
get more money by doing that.
Good
Yeah.
point.
But I do want to point out, Richard, I love the get up today. It looks like you just stepped out of a Silicon Valley meeting. Like, you've got the nice shirt. It's just, it blends well, mate. Good work.
I need to explain why I'm a few minutes late. Humblest apologies. It's school holidays in Melbourne, and I didn't realise that my son had a play date this morning. I very quickly got up and said, "Oh, frozen. I'll have to. I'll keep talking, and then I'll
Yeah, keep
unfreeze
going.
myself."
Yeah.
Good.
But I know why it's freezing, but I can fix that in about a second. There we go. We're back on. For some reason, my camera. And so, as I was getting ready for this podcast, and I'm glad you sent me a note, Dave. Thank you. The other boy turned up, and I said, "Oh, well, let's go for a. Okay, we'll try and squeeze in a quick bike ride." Now, what's really good, and something they should have done years ago, is we have free transport in Victoria at the moment. I said to them, my son said he wanted some ice cream from the local shopping centre. So I said, okay, we'll go for a quick bike ride. We'll get you some ice creams from there. It's a bit further, so we'll jump on the train. We'll take the bikes. We'll do it. Of course, it's like herding cats. It is like herding cats trying to get back. Now, part of my bike riding gear is also part of my surfing gear. So I'm not going to be here for the next 2 weeks because I'll be in the jungles of Indonesia. And I double up on my surfing rash vests with my bike gear because it's made the same material, that it achieves the same thing. So I had my bike gear on and I threw the jacket over the top. So I may look trendy. I'm actually just really weird.
Did you ever see the old show Greatest American Hero?
Yes,
The
my favourite show.
Me too. That's why we get along, Richard. Because look, you got the same kind of orangey red suit on the camera. It looks a little bit like you got Ralph's.
Believe it or not.
Believe it or not, yeah.
The song, Believe It or Not.
Believe it or not, Jerry Rafferty, very good. Joe Scarborough, sorry, Joey Scarborough. Jerry Rafferty was Baker Street.
Yes.
Joey Scarborough.
But I am actually I'm going to talk to some guys about some AI on tracking waves around the world while I'm surfing in Indonesia.
Oh, interesting.
Because they are using it for shark detection.
They are indeed.
Anyway, we're going to talk about AI, so we should probably do one of these. Do I have the thing? Yes.
Good morning to Sean, by the way.
Yes, we're the AI Operator Show, and we are here to talk about AI, not just men's fashion.
We are
Right.
so professional.
Yeah.
So it's there. Sorry, man. Production. You gotta make the cuts when you gotta make them. What did I cut you off from saying? With
I was saying good morning to Sean, and then I saw that as I talked, when the clip came up, it muted our mic. But
Yes.
I love that it can mute it there, but not at the end of the stream. When you're like, okay, no one talk, please, no one talk, and then everyone needs to talk. That's great.
I've got to say, we use Restream, and props to Restream. We're not sponsored by them. We pay them plenty of money to have the use of their service, which allows us to all dial in and then push this out. But they used to have a feature where you could bring up those little stinger clips, and then I have a little media palette, and I could upload videos and click at them, and it would just overtake the whole screen, like we just saw, play the clip, mute all our mics, and then come back to us. They took that away, and they gave us this weird show flow thing on the left there, where you can set up videos as a whole section, and then it auto completes onto the next one, which is what we used to be doing for the intros. But it was always a bit buggy, and if you wanted multiple different like stingers, like we've started to introduce into this show for sections, it doesn't work, because then you've got to have us as a show section like 8 times duplicated with a, this is inside baseball for how to run a show. But I was really frustrated, and I'd gone to their help desk and knowledge base and asked a few times and got the AI, but then a real person seemingly emailed me off the back of my incompleted chat on with their AI chatbot, asking me what I needed. And I told them, and they're like, yeah, sorry, we got rid of that. It was unreliable. We like this thing better. I was like, I'm not even asking for new features. I just want the old feature back. And they're like, yeah, sorry, we understand, but get stuffed.
It's like an iPhone upgrade.
And then a day later, I get another email going, oh, I've talked to tech support and I've turned the feature back on in your account. I'm like, oh, which is how we can have our stingers again. And it makes me so happy. So at the end, we're still using the old way where it doesn't automatically mute mics, because that's just, we'll end the show out and go on that one. Because otherwise, if I play this one, it'll jump straight back to us before we end the stream, and we'll be like, we're over, goodbye. And then bang, we're back here. It's like, oh, sorry, I'm still pressing the button.
Can I ask an AI question from the Brains Trust?
Yes, please do.
What happened with Anthropic a few days ago?
Oh,
the source code on the web and people copying it and vibe coding it. Someone explain what happened for our audience and what does it mean?
Yes, thank you, Richard, because this is a topic we didn't really touch on last week. It was really fresh. I think it happened last Wednesday morning, just before we went to air. And so we didn't really discuss it at all. But I think we should discuss it. There's a few other things happening in the news around Anthropic. And if we're talking about the news, then that means we need to talk about the news.
Welcome to the AI Update. Let's look at what's happening in the news.
Well, that was very punchy.
Let's look at what's happening in the news. Who wants to go first? Who wants to talk about the Claude Code source leak? Matt, you feel like you have things to say about that one?
Oh, I have things to say, but I don't know how it happened. I almost speculate that it happened like maybe halfway on purpose, so that they could, instigate certain things,
So let's talk about what happened in layman's terms, Matt.
Sorry about that.
Let's talk about what happened in layman's terms.
So from a CI/CD GitHub point of view, Matt, and I don't fully understand what the map file is and some of that Git technical stuff. Do you have a handle on the map file that got leaked, which had the code in it?
Just think of it as the posties or freight forwarding looking at your packages as it's getting sent through the terminal. That's basically it. Like,
so their code got leaked on the web.
Yeah, pretty much.
Their AI source code.
From
internally.
People made infinite copies of it in that current state. There's no way they could have shut it down. They put out all the DMCA requests, cease and desist kind of stuff to everyone that was posting things about it. But then it got instantly rewritten in a bunch of different programming languages, and yeah, so in its current state, nothing's secret anymore. But what a lot of people were finding out, though, when they started looking for the secret source, not much source in there, just a lot of weird control.
That's very interesting.
Here we go.
Better harness tools, not destroying the archive of leaked Claude code.
This is one of the guys who got most of the credit for ripping and replacing it, and wrote it in Python and then Rust. And so this is the Claude Code, not Claude Code, where he's gone through and he's ported it into a different language. And so what people like me did is I missed the whole boat and try to get the real source code and do anything. But a lot of the rules and the logic and the way Claude Code works as a harness. And so when we talk about AIs, we've got a few different layers. There's the model, like Opus, like ChatGPT 5.4. And then there's the harness. There's, the Claude Code app or the Claude Cowork app or ChatGPT on the web, or whatever way you access these different tools is different than if you went straight to the API, straight to the model. And we're talking so Claude Code uses Opus, it uses Sonnet, it uses the models, but it puts its own rules and layers and strategies and a whole bunch of stuff around it to help you maximize your use of the model. And so that is what got exposed. all the rules and all the sort of deterministic code around how Anthropic think you should use their model for writing code. And so people got into that and went, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's when they decide to use subagents. Oh, that's what they do when you do that. Oh, that's how they're sort of filtering against those sorts of things. That's how they run that back end process. And so then people went like this guy and rewrote it in a different language, which gets past copyright law, because as soon as it's written in a different language, it's no longer the same product, and they can't make you take it down.
And
So,
the cool part,
should anyone? Sorry, mate. I'll show up. Should anyone who's been using Claude be worried about their data being taken?
No.
Not at all.
Okay, back to you, Marno.
so all that got leaked was it's how Claude works. It's not your data. It's not like a password leak or anything like that. It's just the engine. So imagine like Mercedes built the car and their blueprint for the engine got leaked, not like the person driving the car. Like it's just a blueprint for how they built their system. That's all that got leaked.
Yeah. So
and-
think about Formula One cars and how they've got all their IP and secrets and how they design all their aero and in the previous generation, like all the floor aero. And if they ever had a car up on a crane, they didn't want anyone seeing all their venting and stuff under the floor because that was their special sauce. That's what got released.
Except the special sauce was nothing special at all. Except there was a couple leaks that came out from that showing what projects they're working on and what else is coming. And one of the big ones that I reckon we should talk about is Mythos. So Claude Mythos is got leaked in their system card.
What's it called? Sorry, Marno. Mythos.
Mythos. Mythos.
Oh, Mythos. Okay,
Mythos,
like mythical. Okay, go for
So that came out, and that's the most powerful model that some people are claiming is the most powerful model we've ever created ever as a universe. Like it's just incredible. But they won't make it publicly accessible because its hacking capabilities are next level, to the point like what Claude does when they release a new model. They have a system card explaining how it works, where they found it useful, the use cases for it, and some of those would be like they would run it up, like they'd spin up a service for Claude Mythos, and they'd ask it, hey, try and escape from this container and see if you can send me a message. And almost every single time it would succeed. So it is incredibly good at, I guess, not cybersecurity, but it's hacking. There's a better word for it. It's very, very good at that. So they won't release it to the public because obviously you can see how that could end terribly. But they would be doing is taking some of that context data, some of that training data, and then giving that to the new opus that will come out at some point.
Just remember the old Robert Redford movie Sneakers, where they wanted to get access to that system that could, break into anything and do anything. They're worried it's like that.
Yeah.
So,
but
the
it's pretty
source
cool.
code leak didn't leak any data, but now they can just take your data when they want to.
If they have Mythos.
Well, and so that now that they got leaked, they are talking about it in public. So this is off the Anthropic website. They're talking about Project Glasswing, which is where they're partnering with big infrastructure mobs like AWS, Apple, Broadcom, Cisco, CrowdStrike, etc. And the Mythos preview. Anytime, maybe ready.
I'm sorry.
Live television, everyone. No safety net here.
I haven't worked out how to disconnect my phone from my computer, and it's my daughter ringing, and she doesn't give up. I'm so sorry.
Mythos Preview has already found thousands of high-severity vulnerabilities, including some in every major OS and web browser. Given the rate of AI progress, it will not be long before such capabilities proliferate potentially beyond actors who are committed to deploying them safely. The fallout for economies, public safety, and national security could be severe. Project Glasswing is an urgent attempt to put these capabilities to work for defensive purposes. So they're acting as sort of black hats with Mythos, trying to get in and use their superpowers for good to shore up all the leaks before it gets out in the wild and nefarious people use it for nefarious purposes. Yeah.
Do you reckon they're still doing bug bounty programs? So they just anonymously submit bug bounties and then get paid for it? They can just automate the whole process.
Could do.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as like scraping Upwork and Fiverr and then getting your agents to build it and submit it without doing anything.
What was that Ben Affleck movie where he got it was in the future and he was reverse engineering products?
Oh, no idea.
It was a fabulous film that covers all the morality and the concepts that we're heading into now, but it was a futuristic film, and he just grabbed any product and basically would go into a room and lock himself away and come out with the same output of the product, but it was made differently. It's very clever.
Paycheck in
Thank you,
2003.
Paycheck. It's a really worthwhile film to have a look at. It describes the moral and legal ethical issues we are heading into with AI at a great rate of knots.
Interesting. Yeah, the holographic computer, a futuristic lab, and it can pinpoint the exact clip. So yeah, it's specific for reverse engineering scenes. So it's just reverse engineering a bunch of technology, by the looks of it.
It sounds like Ralph loops.
Oh, what a throwback!
Like,
Okay, so what's new, boys? What are we working on? I've been very much disconnected from the world. I've just been working on the business.
Hang on, Marno. We're not up to wins of the week yet. We've got to try and
okay.
segment this for the audience and for me to edit later if I get time to edit. And I do apologize for anyone that watches our replays.
We're not normally this bad.
Doesn't watch us live. No. I only put last week's replay up yesterday with me having to bail and go on a train halfway through last week's episode, and then the Easter long weekend sneaking up on me. And because I'm now trying to record little intros to intro the replays, I left the live one up there until yesterday and then swapped it for a full proper replay. But like the replay experience is still a work in progress. But yes, we are getting better, and I do hope in the future, as we have these segments, that we'll actually cut these segments and post them up as separate entire videos during the week. It's just, being a one-man band, all singing, all dancing, when it comes to all the editing and production is time-consuming, as we're all running our businesses as well. So inside baseball again on that one. But yeah, on the news side, we're still in the news section. Is there any other breaking news headlines that have popped up this week that we want to discuss that anyone's excited about as far as things? On the Anthropic side, what I'll bring up is they are changing their pricing structure, and they gave everyone a credit because in relation to the open clause, they don't want you using it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
they changed that. They also, even Gemma 4 came out. Talk about that.
Yep, excellent. Yeah. It's like we should plan this stuff before we get on the cameras.
Well, it's a pub talk, isn't it?
That's it, right?
Yeah.
We will dive into some of the announcements around memory and context memory later on into the Atrix section. But on that, so the Claude thing, I thought Claude stopped people from using OpenClaw ages ago. Like, what's going on there? Why is this a new thing? I thought they'd already done that.
They never were clear about it. They never ever were clear about it, and it's still the way that they've done it. I know of two implementations that they've done. One of them is when you append to the system prompt of the agent through your Anthropic subscription, if you append a specific sentence which comes through as part of the OpenClaw harness, all of a sudden your API requests are just cut. It just instantly errors. And
wow.
If you turn on the extra usage, so, when you exceed your subscription, you can actually pay for extra usage. But when you turn that on and you activate your subscription through OpenClaw now, it instantly will just use extra usage, even if you still have a quota. So basically what they're doing is stopping people from using their subsidized subscription inference for clause.
It's weird to me because I think if they're selling you that you can use across the full week, and ignore the 5-hour time limit, but on the 7-day limit, that you can use 1 million tokens, right? So you're paying for 1 million tokens. Do they actually, they're building based, expecting people will never use the 1 million tokens. That's what the pricing is based on.
Because like should be leveled, yeah.
Because I mean, last week with no special open clause or anything, I reached over 90% of my weekly 5x quota. Like I pushed it really hard last week. But that's just me working. That's no special robots.
I think you'll find that it won't. It's not that you're pushing hard. It's just becoming the new norm. Like, because this is what happened to me. Like, I hit the Claude Max ×5 cap instantly when I was just starting to build parallel workflows, and I had to go to the ×20, and I've never capped the weekly on that.
Yeah, I'm wondering. It feels like the models are getting a bit dumber, and they're actually the way. And there's something to be careful of with these harnesses. Like Claude Code, maybe a phenomenal harness, but what's to stop Anthropic from making it run itself in a few loops and just burning extra tokens to make you burn quota versus, being a bit more intelligent about how it structures and manages your files and how much stuff it pushes up and so on and so forth. So I think I'm not suggesting Anthropic are being sus with that. I don't think they are. And some of the stuff that came out of their leak was the way they're managing compaction and trying to reduce file sizes and stuff. But it is something to be aware of with any of these harnesses. Like, how do you know that they're not burning your tokens wastefully?
I think
Yeah.
that's an opportunity, Dave. I think someone needs to vibe code a little bit of an applet to do that and come back to you and report.
Yeah, it's not that they are getting it to wastefully use your quota. It's that they change the rate that your quota is used up. So 1 credit does not equal 1 credit anymore. It equals 2.5.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
So we need a dashboard translation app.
Or just don't use Claude Code.
And it's gonna be one of these things over time as tokenomics becomes a little bit more established, where people will be able to run the maths and go, do I pay them $120 a month for their plan? Or would, if I was buying directly on the API, my average usage would only be $65 in API tokens. And so while we've been sort of lulled into this false sense of security with all these $20 and $30 plans, we'll find out the $20 and $30 plans are insufficient, but the $100, $200, $400 plans are ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so they'll get us migrating onto per token usage instead of subs by default. Like I think it is back to the, yay for capitalism. That's the supply and demand thing, and the market will work out what the price of these things is.
100%. And it's all that subsidy of the costs is based on funding and stuff and, VC money. So where there will be like a plateau and like a stabilization where we actually will start to see the actual real cost as users, and we won't get this sort of free lunch crazy value anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we started talking about this a little bit last week with Mr. Barry's article, Paper Prey, Insert Coins to Try Again, where he's basically saying, like, you are just putting money in the slot machine of AI to a certain extent and giving it a spin, and is the output what you like? And if you've ever done any kind of image generation or video generation, that's very true, where how many times have you got to like ask it 5 times for the right image to get something close to what you wanted? And as the tokenomics and the costs go up, like, are you paying a lottery? Or and look, Matt has economic reasons to promote humans working, given that he runs freelancer.com, which is human freelancers doing work. But when do you, again, that value cost of is AI the right tool for the choice, or are you better off just paying a human? And we've discussed that, like we were discussing the editing of this show 5 minutes ago. If this show becomes economically viable, I would pay a human editor to go through and find our clips and chunk them and make shorts, because I don't trust AI's capability of all the auto clipping tools I've used so far. They all suck at trying to find good moments, interesting moments, human moments that will resonate online. I don't like them. I would rather a human going through editing our show. So I think there's...
Of course, because otherwise, if we use AI, it's only the sum net value average of what everyone thinks is correct. And so if we get an AI to edit our show, all the shows will start to look the same. They'll start to sound the same. They'll say the same information, and we'll all lose the will to live and the will to do a podcast because it'll be boring. So I just want to add in, there's been so much in the press about AI taking over and humans not having a job. I just think it is completely the opposite. I think jobs are going to explode when people work out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And I see is automation is going to accelerate. So we will have more time to do things faster and better, right, without stressing out. And yeah, this whole concept that AI is going to replace humans, like you said, Dave, AI won't be for many years to come. As far as spotting patterns, which we define a part of intelligence, right, is someone who can spot patterns, right? But that creative zone, that little bit that we all do that makes us laugh or cry or do something stupid, you can't get that from a random number generator. And that's all the only random creativity you can get out of a computer. So we'll just have to keep humans in the loop. And we will be the watchers rather than the doers. And that's okay too.
I've got on the concept of just getting away from Claude Code, because me and Matt have been talking about that quite a bit. And have either of you experimented with Goose, produced by, I think it's called Block or Square? Like Jack Dorsey, he launched that, I think 2-3 days ago. It's just called Goose. It's their AI, and the Trust Me Bro benchmarks basically say it's better than anything else. Obviously, It's trust me, bro, benchmarks.
Everyone that releases anything says the benchmarks are better than anything else.
I love the marketing. It's like back in the days of getting a new fry pan or a vacuum cleaner. It's all the same wording. It's very funny.
Is this it, Marno?
That looks like the one. Yep.
Goose. Talk to me, Goose.
I feel like Goose has been around for a fair while. Did they just
Really?
do like an official release or something?
Well, I didn't know about it until the other day. Yeah, like 2 days ago, I saw it come up.
Yeah, right. It looks like the page was built with GPT-5.
I love that you can pick that up now. I've noticed that myself too. Like when I'm seeing websites, I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen this before. Like the look and feel of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's by Block. Yeah, so it's similar to their approach to OpenClaw essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm yet to experiment with it, but it looks cool.
Yeah, this is their releases page. How do I find out what the oldest release was? 13. Page 13. How old is this? 2024.
Whoa.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard about that for a while. And then like another one you guys have probably never heard of is Hermes, and Hermes is getting really big now too.
I have heard of Hermes. Yeah. I read an article on LinkedIn today comparing OpenClaw to Hermes.
Yeah. And then there's Pi, which Pi is literally what is the underlying structure of OpenClaw.
Yeah.
And you can build whatever agent you want.
Yep. And then there's Sergeant coming soon.
I've heard good things about
Watch
that
out.
Yeah, look at this one. It's got a web page and everything, so it must be good.
It's like Claude built that one. No.
Hang on. I just realized when we switch to this mode where I show my screen, my face is completely covered by our logo. Let me do that. This is one I'm building, where I've sort of got this hierarchy of agents that have sort of reports and direct reports and subordinates and specialization. Again, coming back to the token thing, trying to work out if we can specialize and focus specific subagents on specific jobs, then that's going to contain the context significantly and the token burn. And like humans have a hierarchy and an infrastructure where you can orchestrate and delegate things down, replicate that in the agent world.
That's what I did as soon as I started using Pi.
Yeah,
so good. And Sean's point as well, I don't know if you guys read his comment, is very, very true. It's to the point of what Richard was saying before, just about human knowledge and expertise.
Yeah,
these will allow us to leverage AI as a tool.
Wouldn't expect. Yep. Well done.
Yeah,
I know that came from Ashwan on our chat.
I think we're going to see a renaissance of creativity and art as well, because people are already sick of AI slop. You talk to the Gen Alphas and the teenagers, and they're like, "Oh, that's AI." Like they're getting actually the teenagers are already sick of it, and maybe that's because before they had a ban by the government, they were seeing it just flooding their feeds and reels and stuff, and they're just over
very
it.
true. It's like I said with that influencer that went to Wimbledon that was all dressed up and looked like one of these female influencers or a male influencer who, they're attractive. Look at me, I'm groovy. And I remember saying about a year ago that as soon as AI starts doing this, all those influencers out can get paid much money. Yeah. Why would you pay them much money? I can just create an AI influencer, place them anywhere in the world with my product, looking groovy. Yeah. I know the sum net average of what an attractive person looks like, and off I go. And I think the value of things that we've been valuing that probably we shouldn't have been valuing very much is going to collapse. And away it goes. I think, I don't know if I mentioned, but I had a friend of mine lose their job recently. And I said, and they're a very good go-to-market strategist, customer person. And I said, what are you doing? He goes, oh, AI is great. He says, we just cut and paste all the information about the client. I drop it into my LLM. I drop in all about my product. I tell me what's the best part of my product. And bang, and I send that off. And how good is that? Normally I'd take weeks or months studying that. And I go, yeah. And he goes, but we still didn't sell a cracker. And I got fired after 6 months. And I said, so what does that tell you? And he went, I don't know. I said, I think it tells you all your competitors are doing the same thing. So there's nothing you're doing that's different. So you have no competitive advantage. And so you don't stand out from anything.
Yep.
Nothing beats creative hard work. Using your brain.
I think what we're going to see is maybe for planning and rushes and stuff. So already as film and TV and stuff have evolved, they went from, just static sort of charcoal sketches for their storyboards Then for some of the more advanced stuff for CG, they started using gaming engines, Unity and stuff to mock up 3D worlds so they could actually sort of project and work out what the shots are going to look like in real time, real space. And I think using AI to do those quick mock-ups is sort of the next level. I saw this concept put out today on Instagram, but it's basically the concept of this guy, like if you're advertising and you're trying to work out which look and feel is the best in real time as they're going through, just sort of like, let's just change the edit. Let's I don't know if the audio will work or whether we'll get echoes.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Concept.
So this illustrates it perfectly, right?
Yeah, so that concept of, let's quickly just change look and feel. Let's work through different options quickly before we actually then put real people in place and go to
waste money. Exactly. Yeah. So the concept, right, is what's the creativity. The concept, the idea. Concept to video is where it used to take so much time. And if you had the wrong concept and you got that far, it didn't look any good, you're screwed, right? But today, the real value will be in the art director and the psychologist and the customer service officer says, here's the message we want to portray. And then you go play with it on the screen, right? The other way around. So I think the value of human creativity is going to go up and up and up.
Yep, definitely. I think, and how do we encourage that critical thinking? How do we encourage that element of humans thinking creatively and not, and I think, Matt, you said this last week, don't defer your thinking to the AI.
Yeah, well, this is what we talk to businesses about, right? They ask us, what am I going to do? And we say, well, tell us, before we talk AI, tell us what is your business challenge? Mm-hmm. Where are you trying to go? What's the problem?
What's the real problem?
Yeah. What is the real problem we're trying to solve? And Marno and I had a great chat about this on the phone the other day, I think, when I was driving. But it's always, what is the problem you're trying to solve and where are you going with it? Everything else is just window dressing.
100%.
It's true. Marno, what was you wanted to have a chat about something specific before and Dave didn't let you?
Oh, I'm not allowed to yet.
No. Let's do that. I think we've covered the big headlines in the news, so let's move to this.
Cool.
Wins of the week.
It was less wins of the week. It was more just, I feel like as the business is growing and I'm getting busier and busier, I'm getting less time to talk to the lads. So it was more asking, how has the last week been? What have you been focusing on? What have you been developing? I know I've been personally really deep into like personal development, self-awareness, self-mastery. So I'm reading Mastery by Robert Greene, and then also reading the $1 Trillion Coach by, I think it's Bill Campbell. So Eric Schmidt and another bloke wrote it from Google. And that's been setting me on this little trajectory. And then from there, like, again, coming to the purpose of like, what can I do? What can I scale and what can I sustainably do for the long future? That's just going to fulfill me. So if I die next week because we get bombed, I'm going to enjoy and live my true self, authentic self for the next week. And I'd really be getting into that, like studying Dan Code religiously and creating a bunch of like infographics and slide decks to test myself on the subject of just self-mastery. I've really found it confronting, and it's been a lot of growth, but it's been a lot of fun. So I'm curious to see how you two doing and how are you spending your week, or the three of you, sorry.
That sounds like a win of the week, mate. I think this is perfectly in line with this.
Good.
just to be fair. That's awesome, man. I mean, time to read. That's magical.
It's been a lot, man. It's been a lot. And even like the conversation with Richard that we had, like he introduced me to a few concepts that I guess I knew existed, but he put it into words that made sense. Like I've worked with other coaches, and the way that Richard communicated it at like a 5th grade level, so I could actually understand it and conceptualize it. And that set me on this little ramp of like, hey, cool, what exactly am I doing?
That
How do
makes
I
sense,
communicate
mate. I always act like a fifth grader most of the time. So
But
that all comes
they
together.
say to communicate clearly, you should aim for about a 5th grade level, because
Yeah.
as soon as you start using big words that are confusing, the cognitive load burns up and people can't
Yeah.
handle it. Like
We
you
stopped
are.
reading at the 5th grade. No one
Although
reads after that.
I did see some chart that was showing, the average number of words in the human sentence, and back in the 1500s and through the Renaissance and stuff, like it was like 30 plus words per sentence, and now we're down to about 5. Like
Yeah.
so it's just race to the bottom curve.
Driven by clickbait.
We can just communicate effectively. That's my argument.
The thing that's what I'd always say to my English teachers in high school. Like, why do you need 3 pages? I said everything I had to say in a page and a half. I'm just succinct and tidy with my words.
But yeah, so what are your wins? How do you the 3 of you spend your week or prioritize what's important? I've even done my little vision board. Let me show you this. This is my biggest win of the week. I got Gemini to generate one that you can't see, but it was financial goals at the top. Then it's new home goals because I want to buy a new house at the end of this year or in the next 3 months. Then family and health goals. So stay healthy for the boys, eat healthy, and then have a baby, hopefully, if we're blessed enough. And then life structure. So how do I prioritize my schedule? What's my sales funnel look like? Like what's the funnel I need to go through? And then my social life. Like who am I spending time with? Like only quality people, essentially. So this is definitely the win. Like getting that.
I love your raw openness, because if you can't face your own objectives and vulnerability, you'll never get anywhere. And that's like, what's the problem I'm trying to solve? And you are answering the most important question of what is the problem you are trying to solve for yourself. I love that. I think it's great.
The one that I care about.
You framed it.
Exactly. It's all we should. And on the back of that, one of my wins this week was the amount of research that I could do across my own data using the LLM as I'm writing my book, which will be out on wide release in about a month's time. And I've had a really good feedback from it, because I actually I've written 53,000 words, I think, and I pinged it to a whole lot of executives, very senior ones, C-levels right across Australia and the world, and some private equity ones, and they came back very positive. And I asked them all for stories to contribute, to give that, that characterization and the construction, something that AI couldn't do, because this is all real stuff. It's people in rooms, who said what words, and all that sort of stuff. And that was my win this week, using AI to get my research and reach out to my partners and my friends and say, give me what you think. So hopefully I'll, as your David's published a few books, I'll talk to him about how I get started on that. But that's my win.
Nice.
I'm keen to hear it. That'd be awesome.
Marno, on your thing with the stuff, I was listening to some content this week from StoryBrand, Donald Miller, who started StoryBrand, and really interesting guy to listen to. Like great storyteller. Like, well, that's his business, right? And just thinking about his methodology. But one of the things that came up in one of the interviews with him was around the obituary. So write your obituary that you would want people to read out aloud.
Ooh, I love that.
So like write that now. And then that's sort of the North Star. So if you want those things to be true about you when you die, that should affect what your choices are and what your actions are today. So he reads that.
That's a piece of gold, Dave.
So he's one of those, and he reads that daily, because that sort of reminds him of what's important.
I had that exposed to me a fair while ago. It's really interesting talking about this like personal development stuff, because that was a huge part of my life about 6 or 7 years ago. And I kind of just came out the end of it with all of this foundation built, and I've never gone back. I probably should go back and like reassess, but like my win of the week, my like huge thing that I've been working on is very similar, very parallel to the same concept, except for agents. Yeah, legitimately. Like I've, because of all of the shenanigans with Claude Code and Anthropic, and I was like, look, I'm going to pull myself out of a walled garden and a closed off proprietary piece of stuff, even though it's leaked. And I'm going to rebuild my entire workflow, my entire agent infrastructure with something different. And I chose Pi, and it's been fantastic. And I would say that at this point in time, I've completely replaced every single possible feature that I would use in Claude Code or any other agent harness inside my own. And I'm continuing to build them build more and more on top of it. So the whole personal development with the agents in mind is this internal feedback loop system that I built inside it, so that as I'm speaking to it and I correct it, it actually flags that and puts it into this pedagogy system where it will self-learn and self-correct as we go and as we learn together.
I love it. Oh, I love that. I really like that.
That's unreal.
It's very funny. Remember when you first got the ability to organize information? Trying to remember back to when you were young and you did that, right? We're doing that today with AI on a completely new perspective and scale. And it's so exciting because you remember when you're young, you just got up in the morning, ate, ran around the street, went to school. You did whatever. You weren't really worried about managing information. You were worried about learning. Now, as we've become more sophisticated, we've got so much happening around it and so many tools. We're now coming up new ways, and it's reflecting back to us, as you're saying, Matt, who are we? What's important to me? And where are we going? And there's a great sketch that Jerry Seinfeld does where he talks about a similar thing, but he's talking about the perfect box. And he goes, I need a box for that, and I need a box for that. And where do I find a box to put those things? And he talks about organizing everything. He finishes the sketch with, and of course, in the end, you find the perfect box, and it's your coffin. But it's a great metaphor, right? For us. It's a good sketch. It's a great metaphor for us realizing where our lives are going, what's important, what do we want at the end of it. And I just find AI so exciting for businesses and individuals to create the perfect life they want and have a reflective perspective on it.
Yeah. We've spoken before, Richard, about inability to focus and stay on track and all that kind of just insane thing that happens with brains or of our types of brain. And my agent systems now, I have all of these different methods of interacting where it actually controls my calendar in full now. And I have a complete sort of task and project management system that it uses for me. And then I've got my knowledge core as well, which is what you're talking about with all of this data that you're processing. There's 3 words that I came across just in distilling research, because I actually did do some prep for this episode on Dave's request. And it was to do with how you treat that information. And one of them is compilation. So you were talking about all your book information and trying to pull stuff from there. But when you have a big mess of data that hasn't used any sort of compilation system, you're kind of starting from scratch every single time.
You are. Every time you look at it, you go, oh shit, where am I?
So it sounds like we're going to talk about memory and context and how agents can do memory. So let me just do this.
Go down.
Could do that beat just going for a bit more like.
So cool until it cuts.
I know. Or Google VO, it's nuts for it. Like it does these 8-second clips and they're really cool, but it just doesn't understand a fade out, and so it's like it just cuts your audio. Anyway, this whole memory concept we have talked in the past. I think around back in the 90s, you had to have good folder structures for all your documents and folders and stuff, and because otherwise you'd lose everything. And then search became a lot better in the operating systems, and now there's so many files and so many micro files. Search has gotten a lot worse again, and the indexes are a lot worse. And now we're moving to these LLMs where they need clean, structured text and ways of doing context. And so, Matt, you built your whole knowledge core thing. Have you revisited that? Is that part of your agent pedagogy thing? Is it a separate thing? Because you've done a lot of work on knowledge management. I've taken some ideas from you into my own system, but there's been some headlines that are getting all the press because of famous people that have been releasing memory systems as well this week.
Yeah, and there's literally these 3 concepts. It's compilation, retrieval, and continuity. So compilation is the organization. It's the sticking things into a wiki, like Karpathy's headlines, and the idea of knowing where everything lives. That's compilation. It's another way of looking at this is it could be a map or a graph of the content, where the thing to think about there is can the system turn all of your messy source material into something maintainable and understandable. So that's one thing, and that's what Mila's system, the whole mem palace, that's what it tries to achieve, is the idea of like providing this compiled space similar to Karpathy's wikis. The second thing is retrieval. So there's no point having it stored if you can't get it out again, and you can't get it out quick, which is really just, can the system find it? Like, does it understand your structure? Can it search through it? Can it navigate through it? So when the agents are actually looking through your file directories, can it quickly just search for a keyword and find which file has that keyword, filter those results? You know, the models know how to do all this stuff with code, but having the infrastructure to make it faster and frictionless is really important. And then that third thing, continuity, I think this is the most important, because it's what Richard was talking about with his book writing. Every time he sits down to write some stuff, he's going to have to recompile all of his thoughts and his previous notes and all that stuff, instead of saying, hey, I'm just going to continue to run on chapter 8 here. What were we talking about last time? And then find all of your notes and details on chapter 8.
That's exactly it. That is such a good description. I remember there was a number of themes running through my book. And when you get over 50,000 words, it's a lot of rereading and stuff like that. And so I did a bit of a search test to globally replace certain phrases that I should not have been using for copyright or lawsuit or just pure nastiness reasons. And the speed to me to edit. I mean, I've actually written books before and written big documents before, and I always hand it to a better editor than me, a PR specialist, a writing specialist. They never got what I wanted. They always came back with crap, and they're biased, or what I would call confirmation bias, or their cognitive dissonance around the subject that I'm trying to talk about. And that would annoy the hell out of me. I work with my AI agents and they have no cognitive dissonance. They have a little bit. They have mine, which is what I want them to have.
Yeah. Another cool thing with the continuity, which is what I have built into my core, is the idea of preserving that thread of work, which is what we just said, but also decisions and open loops. So open threads, like here's something I'm going to come back to. Because what a lot of people do, like if you think of writing notes in a paper book, unless you're going to go and use liquid paper and like, you know, blank out all of your previous writing or cover it in Scribble before you write your next note, most people just append. They just keep appending their thoughts and their notes, their observations. If you don't do that with your digital systems, your agents won't see your decision-making process to help analyze the solution that you're trying to get towards and like the path that you took to get there.
It's interesting because you mentioned the Hermes thing, and one of the things that Hermes does with its memory system is it limits you to X number of characters because it wants it to prioritize and just pick the most important memories. But you will lose context in that. That's the whole issue with compaction. So it's an interesting model where it's like we want the agents to choose the most important memories, but it means you will lose memories. You will lose some of that color and context and contour. You mentioned a few names, Karpathy and Mila, and people out there might have no idea what you were talking about, Matt. So Andrej,
just Andre.
I'm pretty sure that's Andre, Dave.
Okay.
Yeah, Andre.
He is the previous director of AI at Tesla, founding team at OpenAI, and he's got a PhD from Stanford. But he really does he? It just looks like flowers to me. Oh no, there he is. He's amongst
It's a Renoir of himself.
So he wrote this big X article around how he's managing memory in his LLMs using Obsidian, which you put me onto, Matt, and WikiLinks and so on, and how to connect all your files. And so the whole internet, because every time Karpathy says something, they all freaking lose their minds because of his reputation and his runs on the board. And so everyone's like, oh, this is amazing. This is this revolutionary way of doing memory management. And in the same week, we've had Mila Jovovich. Really? Come out with her Mem Palace repo on GitHub, which is based on a Greek actor's method. There's the whole memory palace. It's like you hear about like Sherlock Holmes, and he's got like the mind palace where he has rooms and things, and he can go in there and manage all his memories. So actors use that apparently for remembering their scripts. She's partnered with someone and built this model that they put out there that, you know, creates this virtual abstraction of rooms and places and stores memories in different wings and halls of a virtual building and so on. And that apparently is doing very well in some of the testing benchmarks, because everything that gets released is, of course, the best at all the benchmarks. I did see one guy on LinkedIn go, I put it to the test and I was looking for certain things and I ran it against grep, which is like just a console, like a bash terminal search. And he said, like, grep just destroyed it. And if you're looking for specific content and specific keywords, those raw terminal search tools are just going to win. But it's when you want themes and ideas that are connected to one another.
It's the context, exactly. As
Those sort of inferred search parameters you're not going to get from a straight word search. And so again, it is horses for courses. There's not one search method that works for everything. It is this ability to manage these things. So I went to my AI system and said, hey, I want a comparison between what I'm doing with my memory system and what Karpathy's saying and what MemPalace says. And so it actually gave us, you talk about the different layers, Matt, it gave me a bit of a breakdown and comparison of the three, where it talks about, raw preservation of the original content, the compilation layer, how you're navigating it, the cross-referencing, the compounding, the temporal, and the linting and the health stuff. So they're basically doing things quite differently. And I was really happy with my system because it said I've independently built something that covers 80% of what both systems do. Huzzah! There's my win of the week, Marno. My memory system is already an awesome hybrid of both. With but obviously then it goes on and there's a few things I can steal, and that's the thing with all of these systems. It's that additive nature of these systems. It's like not that one is better, one is worse. It's like, okay, that's cool. How can I grow on that? How can I build on that? Matt with his own PyAgent sort of coding system that I'm sure he's going to put out his GitHub and open source and become just as famous as Mila and Karpathy anytime soon. But just like I plan to do with Sargent.
It's very interesting. I had Savio, one of our listeners, ring me during the week. I think, Dave, you're scheduled to have a chat with him soon, and he's working on very similar. How do I organize myself? How can I help people organize themselves? I have executives call me and say, like you and I spoke about, how do I get my LLM to talk to every email I ever sent and give me a knowledge base that I can draw from and work on? And it's funny, I find as a non-technical member of the team, that everyone's racing to the same thing. And there's a lot of serendipity and there's a lot of double up in work. And there are no commercially available tools unless you do it yourself to deliver what we're asking for right now.
The closest are things like co-work. And like a lot of, like my system is actually co-work's doing a lot of that heavy lifting. So I've got this memory system where I have these wiki links and these decision logs and all these things that are building out that you saw there. But the engine that I'm using at the moment is co-work because it's running them as scheduled tasks. It's going and checking my systems automatically for me. Before that, I was in anti-gravity using Google Gemini, and I just had to manually run the tasks and stuff and create the agents. And so it is these things, these become systems. And I think we said this last week, we've got to start building business systems, not just AI processes or AI-driven processes or whatever we said.
They've got to be available. They've got to be time scheduled. We've
got to think about like, what is the value this thing drives for me? So you can build all these amazing systems, but do they drive any actual value? Everyone wants to build an agent, and I've been talking to organizations that are building these little agent projects here and there, but they're not really sure they're getting any value. And you measure adoption and usage, but you go, great, you're burning some tokens, you use it. Did it generate value and make life better for you or not? Like for me, because it goes through and checks my calendar and my emails and has all this full memory knowledge of my business decisions and what businesses are doing and transcripts from calls and everything. I had a great meeting this week. And before that meeting, it said, here's a dossier. And I went and did a full background research on the person I was meeting with. And then off that, it's come through that there's a follow-up call where I'm going to meet with a few other people. And so it picked that email up and went, oh, you're going to meet with this other people. I'm going to get Lois, your researcher, to go back. And so now it's given me a full dossier of all the background information on these people, just automated. I didn't specifically say, go research these people. It just knows because I built these systems that drive real value for me because now it gives me background and context before I go into a conversation. So that's a value to me, but that might be of no value to someone in a different role.
That's exactly right. And the stuff that I always say where it's a primitives-based principled approach, like what are the concepts that are underlying behind everything? But realistically, the value you're saying is, what do you want? What's the problem you're trying to solve? Are you solving the problem? Are you getting what you want? And where's the friction? Like there's really only those things. Like you can go and get a faster car and drive to the shops quicker, but is that solving like a problem? It's not there's not many reasons to go and just jump to new tools or to
Yeah.
fall prey to media releases. I think that's the right wording to use.
Yeah.
It's like all those people, Matt, that wanted to run their house via Windows because it was really cool until they had a power failure and they couldn't get in their house.
A great book to, I guess, digest all of that is called The Crux. It's about project management or effective project management, and it's all about the crux of the issue. So what's the one thing, like not just a constraint, but what's the constraint of the business? What's the crux of the business that is really stopping everything from moving on? It's a very, very good book. I've listened to it. I'm still reading it, but very, very good approach to, okay, what's the crux of the issue? What are we actually solving for? Rather than solving or over engineering or over optimizing something that is irrelevant, that only drives about 2% or the 20% instead of the 80%.
Yeah, that's a good point, because like all of these different things like the Crux and Hormozzi's like way of breaking down businesses, there's going to be so many others. There's another book called Traction. I know it's really good for that too. All of these things, like the way that I look at this stuff now, and you guys probably have similar or maybe differing opinions, is how can I turn the frameworks, the knowledge, the actionable steps, the questions, how can I turn them into something that is systematized, whether it's agentic or not? It's just there, ready to go, so that if I have a question about my business or somebody else's, all of a sudden now we're going through the Crux, we're going through Hormozzi, we're going through Traction, we're going through everything, and getting it a merged, compiled, grounded, actionable result.
I came across StoryBrand, and I really liked what Mila was saying about the way he approaches pitches and elevator pitches and one-liners and all that kind of stuff, and presenting the problem that you solve before people don't care about your story and stuff I know and stuff I've heard before many times. But the way he presented was really clear. So I'm like, okay, I need to find out more about the StoryBrand framework, which he's done YouTube videos out the wazoo. Like there's so much content out there for me to grab and gather, and then get that into my system. So when I go to Kat, my copywriter and my PR person, she thinks about that. She thinks about those concepts when writing any copy on my behalf for any of my websites or LinkedIn posts or anything like that, because that's really great methodologies and frameworks that I can then adapt and insert, and with the context of everything else I'm doing, makes them more powerful. Whereas if like StoryBrand have their own AI tool, which I'm sure is fabulous because I've trained it really hard on the StoryBrand framework, but it also doesn't have any of my context. I'm going to have to go and find all my context and choose which selective context I give it versus taking the framework and just sticking it in my system that already has all of my context.
Yeah, and I would say, Dave, your personality is what's most important there. Story branding framework, formats, the format for a proposal, a tender, everything. They've all got formats. I remember hearing Elton John talk about how he knows how to write a hit song. He knows where to start. He knows where to finish. He knows it should be in the middle, all that sort of stuff. And he said he could write a conceivably hit song every day of the week. But unless it's got something unique that's emotional to him or is triggering in the industry or relates to someone in the thing, it'll do nothing. Right? Yeah. And so, we use these frameworks, and it's great that people offer them to us. But at the end of the day, it's a piece of you that we want, Dave.
Right. And the advantage that we have with these tools is, if you're creating any content, if you've got any back catalog of content, Richard, you've just written a whole book, you can use those as assets for it to train on your voice and your style and what makes you unique. So we have these video transcripts, every podcast, I can actually say, go and pull all the extracts of Dave. That's how I talk. So that's literally me talking. That is my voice. So when you go and write things, find the patterns, find the ways I talk, find the catchphrases, all that kind of stuff, and adapt those into any writing style that you do.
I'm about to start on the audio book. Do you mean I actually don't have to read my own book? I can just throw some AI voice at it?
You can, but it's probably going to be woeful, and I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, no, it's much more fun when I make mistakes. That's where people enjoy themselves.
I hate when, I haven't listened to a lot of audiobooks, and we should wrap up. We hit the hour. But you get the author who reads out the prelude or the prologue or the intro, and then you go, oh, this is really good. I can connect to them. That's their content. That's real. And then it switches over to a generic paid voice actor, and you're like, oh, this is crap now.
Oh, no. The same thing happened with the Diary CEO. He read, I think, the first third of the book. Halfway through a chapter, like it's still part of the same sentence, essentially. It just cuts over. And I'm like, no. Like the rest of it felt so like unsettling.
That
Because
makes no
it's changed.
sense, does it? No, that's silly.
Yeah.
I intend to read my own audiobook, and I don't intend to do it in a monotone way. I intend to do it with inflection, emotion, and passion, because that's what connects us. Not the words, not the information, the other stuff. And that's what I'm going to inject into
and you
my
get to
audio.
add the little gems too. Like I know, which one was it? I think it was Noah Kogan on his book, The $100 Million Weekend, or the $1 Million Weekend. And as he's reading it, he's like, oh, since I've written this, I've also learned this, this, and this. And then you keep sharing because the stories will come up as you're reading it. So it's almost more valuable.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, it brings by that. Sorry, Dave, we were resigning ourselves back to your control, sir.
Well, we are wrapping up the show. We are at the hour. So thank you, gentlemen. Great show. Lots of good chat and nuggets. Thank you for dealing with my production
Fun.
strictness that I'm trying to inject, the rigor, the production rigor that we're trying to insert into this show, just so we can maybe try and get a bit more distribution and help people find out the bits that they care most about hearing. So thank you all. Thank you, gentlemen. Now remember, as you said, Marno, at the top, you've got to be quiet. The mics are active until I shut down the stream and then come back to say goodnight. So hello, goodbye, good night, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever time it is. Thank you all. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Yeah.